Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandom at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hi folks, this is Joe Zagorski and welcome to this episode of the Pigskin Past. We're talking about turnovers and a title. Now in 1973, the Minnesota Vikings advanced to the NFC Championship game where they played the Dallas Cowboys at Texas Stadium. In big games, regardless of the era, the 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever, to the current day, the winning team that's, decided to be the winning team usually does not make as many mistakes as the losing team. Typically, not always, but more often than not, that's the way it goes. But what happens when the winning team makes a bunch of mistakes and still manages to win? Well, the 1973 NFC title game serves as a good case in point about that. The Vikings committed 4 turnovers and the Cowboys committed 6. At one specific point in the third quarter of that game, both teams were giving the ball away on consecutive plays. It was almost as if neither side wanted to win the game. Now, naturally, that was not either team's intent, but it was a game with everything riding on it, a berth in the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 8 to be exact. And certainly the two teams, the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings, could have played better than one might think. But, the Doomsday defense, the Cowboys and Minnesota's Purple Gang, they played well all throughout the game, for the most part. The turnovers appeared to be a matter more of the nervousness of the opposing offenses than of running into stellar defenses. But the most important element that this game established involved a few key offensive drives. Minnesota's offense managed to control the ball throughout the first quarter, and by game's end, they had accounted for a total of 306 yards. The Cowboys could earn only 153 yards all game long. Now, Minnesota took a 10-0 lead into halftime, thanks to another long drive which resulted in a 5-yard touchdown run on a sweep by rookie tailback Chuck Foreman, who incidentally won the NFC Rookie of the Year award in 1973. Early in the third quarter, however, the turnovers began to have their say in the result. Dallas quarterback Roger Staubach threw a deep pass downfield that Minnesota cornerback Bobby Bryant intercepted at his own 2-yard line. Now, a lot of people said, why didn't you just, bat it away? That way they would have forced a punt. And, the long pass, the interception, turned out to be no worse than a great punt for the Cowboys. But speaking of punts, the ensuing Vikings punt by Mike Eyeshide resulted in Dallas's first score of the game. Eyeshide did what a lot of punters like to avoid. He had outkicked his coverage, and that gave Dallas return man Golden Richards enough time to make the catch, size up his blocks, and weave his way downfield. In a few seconds and 63 yards later, Richards crossed the goal line and Dallas drew closer to the Vikings 10-7. Now, Minnesota answered back in a very quick fashion. From his own 46-yard line, Fran Tarkenton rolled out to his right and threw the ball deep down the middle. It looked like one of the longest passes that Tarkenton threw all year. Perhaps it was one of the longest that Tarkenton threw all throughout his career. He was not really known for having a strong arm, but his 54-yard pass was perfect. It was landed right in the arms of Minnesota wide receiver John Gilliam, who was in the end zone by the time he caught it. The Vikings had recaptured their 10-point lead. Unfortunately for the Cowboys, they would never get any closer in this game. That was due to the fact that they continued to commit key turnovers. Probably the biggest one, well, undoubtedly the biggest one, occurred early in the fourth quarter when Roger Staubach dropped back to pass and he threw a short out to Bullet Bob Hayes, Dallas Cowboys wide receiver of great renown and, of course, Olympic speed champion, gold medalist. Once again, Minnesota's Bobby Bryant made another interception along the sideline. Bryant managed to regain his balance after leaping and catching the ball, and he managed to stay in bounds as he sprinted down the field. A convoy of Viking defenders escorted Bryant into the Dallas end zone to complete his 63-yard return for an interception for a score. Another field goal by Minnesota place kicker Fred Cox made the final score 27-10 in favor of the Vikings. Now this was a game for Minnesota to dominate. Starting Dallas halfback Calvin Hill earned over 1,000 yards rushing during the 1973 season. But he didn't play at all in this title game because he was injured in the previous week's divisional playoff win against the Rams. So the Cowboys really missed Hill's productive rushing statistics, and without him, Dallas really had no decent offensive drives throughout the game. On offense, all the Minnesota weapons were functioning pretty well, in fact, almost as well as they had done all year long. The Vikings earned a 12-2 record in 1973, and they were never seriously challenged in their division. The only factor that made this game at least somewhat competitive, especially in the first half, was the turnovers. If you took away one or two of those turnovers, Minnesota may have won this game with an even greater margin. An element of irony involved the final statistics. Both quarterbacks, Fran Tarkenton and Roger Staubach, ended this contest equally by completing 10 passes in 21 attempts. Tarkenton threw for 133 yards, however, and Staubach only threw for 89 yards. For certain, Tarkenton's 63-yard touchdown bomb to John Gilliam provided the difference in that particular statistic. Minnesota's 27-10 win over Dallas in the 1973 NFC title game offered one last irony. Their opponents in Super Bowl VIII would be the Miami Dolphins, who defeated their opponents in the AFC title game, the Oakland Raiders, by an identical 27-10 final score. Well, thanks for listening again, folks. This is Joe Zagorski for the Pigskin Past. Look forward to talking to you again in the near future.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
We here at the Sports History Network proudly partner with 26 podcasts, all revolving around the history of sports. But did you know that many of our hosts were sports history authors way before they started their shows? It's true. We've got Joe Ziemba, host of When Football Was Football, Joe Zagorski, host of Pro Football in the 1970s, Mark Morthier, host of Yesterday Sports, Tommy Phillips, host of Lombardi Memories, and Scott Adamson, co-host of From the 55-Yard Line. All these authors have many books for you to choose from. To check them out, go to our website at sportshistorynetwork.com/sportshistorybooks. Pick up your copy today. Soundtrack provided by Kevin MacLeod of filmmusic.io.